Welcome in everybody to the Power Hour, and we finally got Eric Knopsnyder back on the line. Eric, you haven't been talking to us from your house in I don't know, what's it been, 4 months, and you still don't have internet,
Yeah,
but you're finding a way. You're finding a way to do it, right?
yeah. Moved here in July. Internet was supposed to be in August. We're now in November. Still no internet, but we're trying it via Skype on the phone and whole big weird setup going on here. But hopefully the sound is okay. You can see a little bit of the podcast studio here that we've got going. That'll be awesome if and when I can actually get internet.
Yeah, I mean, when is Comcast, right? Are they on? They listening in, or are they going to help you out here?
I
What's the?
Comcast allegedly told us this week or next week. They told us 3 weeks ago. They told us 3 to 4 weeks. So fingers crossed. Maybe someday I'll be able to step into 1995 and have internet.
I would.
This is the
Would
tactical
love to.
mind.
I would love to have that, Eric, because it's been tough. It's been tough with you at work. You had the power go out one time. I mean, these aren't safe working conditions for you, Eric.
So. No, and I was quarantined for 2 weeks with no Wi-Fi. Talk about a rough 2020. Try being quarantined and not having Wi-Fi.
You're right. I mean, who's gonna watch Netflix? I mean, remember Tiger King? Tiger King feels like it was 3 years ago, and it really wasn't that long ago, right? But luckily,
that's all right. Yeah.
Luckily, we have the Willie Trials. Eric,
as I like to call it, Days of Flow Lives.
Days of Flow Lives.
Yes.
That's pretty cool, and it's pretty accurate. Eric, you've been watching it. I was able to watch it today. Due to the 2020 presidential election, I unfortunately had to be at work basically all day, every day. So I was not able to catch really that last week, but I was able to watch a lot today, and I was able to go back and read or listen to the Stalemates, shout out Stalemates, and get some good feedback and recap. And I will have to say, Eric, we won the first day, did we not? I mean,
we did.
We had more press and more shout outs from people I've never even heard of, but apparently we've had a relationship with Flo. I don't know.
It was kind of a one night stand, I think. I don't know if it was really a relationship, but it was. They definitely screwed us.
I don't think we could say that, Eric. We're going to be next. I don't want a PA Power. I don't want a PA Power Trials.
We got a lot of free publicity out of this trial, though.
Yeah, apparently we did.
I mean, I bet we were on the screen like 12 times on Friday.
That's awesome. I was getting
the press release from Rockfin got so much publicity.
So Eric Gibson really got a lot of.
He was
our,
on there all the time.
That was our photo, and our new site. Shout out Edgar Brown from Cyber Publishers got some airtime on there because we are hosting the Powerade website on PA Power Wrestling. So the person who had originally hosted Powerade website for a very, very long time, Bruce Clausen, kind of a staple in Western Pennsylvania. He's not doing so well health wise, so we are taking over the duties of running the Powerade website. So of course we have that on our main website, and apparently going back to it, it looked like they had a problem with that, which is kind of ludicrous. Well, actually not kind of. It's really ludicrous because if you click on that, it takes you directly to the Powerade website. And on there, it says watch live on Flow Wrestling. Of course, there's nothing else on there because we're not 100% sure that the Powerade is definitely going to happen. I mean, we're certain that it's going to be tried to take place, but it's crazy to me that they're just like grasping at straws at whatever they can find. And what do we have to do with, we're not on trial. Stop bringing me up.
Well, you know what? In some ways, I was like, hey, according to this trial, we're like the third biggest entity on Rockfin. Like the three that have been talked about has been Matt Scouts, which is Willie Saylor, which is, of course, part of the trial, the main thrust of it. Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, which we know got huge numbers whenever they did their debut event back in September. and PA Power Wrestling. I mean, that's all you get whenever you tuned in on Friday. Those were the three things. I mean, they've got, Rockfin has Ben Askren, they've got Jordan Burroughs, and I mean, they're talking about PA Power Wrestling all the time. So, hey, I take it as a compliment.
Yeah, I mean, if a multi-million-dollar company, right, with a headquarters, with a executive board and fancy pens and all kinds of cool stuff, millions of dollars, right? And here we are, right? So you got, I mean, if I would take this screen up behind me, you would see my ranch house in my basement with a pantry behind me, right? You would see that, I work full time in another occupation, you work full time in another occupation, and I wish we were millionaires or we wouldn't have to work in our full time occupations. But it's funny because I thought, well, we're a competition to Flow, but really that's not a big compliment because apparently like a 4-year-old who can figure out how to live stream a swimming meet at their local Y is competition. So really, I mean, it was nice for the airtime, but it also wasn't really saying a whole lot because although we are a sole proprietorship that doesn't do any of this full time, we're not really, I don't know, we got brought up a lot, but according to Flo, literally everybody in the world is a competitor. So,
well, you saw my tweet on Friday that my dog is, according to Flo, is a competitor.
Yes,
because she was vying for my attention and my eyeballs whenever I was trying to watch the trial. So that takes away from Flo. So she's a competitor.
I think you should probably be careful with Hope because she may be getting deposed here pretty soon. And yeah, so I look at it, and before we went live, we were talking a little bit about, because it literally, today's trial just ended, and Willie was still in the stand, and Karen was cross-examining him, but really it was more, according to Judge Livingston, she was really just badgering and trying to have sidebar conversations. And let me tell you, I've been on the stand in criminal trials before as an affiant, and it's not fun to be cross-examined. I can tell you that for certain. But man, this was interesting, and I give the analogy. I was thinking about this. If this is a wrestling match, I think Willie and Rockfin are up 13-2 headed into the third period. That's so you're on the cusp of a potential tech fall, right? And Judge Livingston's going to come down and be like, "That's it, it's over." Like I'm the fact finder in this. I pretty much have everything that I need to, and this is over. Or you're just going to let it ride out. You're getting kind of tired in the third period. You put a lot of work into the first and second. You got a couple turns from top. Now all of a sudden you're like, I'm just going to grind this one out. I can stall for 2 minutes. I think they are in pretty good positions, at least. And obviously I'm a little biased, and I'm sure a lot of people are.
We admit that, you know all about bias, Jeff.
Sure.
You study this, you teach on it, you understand all this, and we're going to be a little biased because we're on the Rockfin platform. We understand what all this comes out, but I think you and I are also intelligent enough to watch this and say, okay, I can see when Flo makes a good point, and I can accept that. But I think Karen, she's out of her depth here with Mr. Brudical and Soltero. I think they are really winning this one big time at this point.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to the way I'm looking at it, and I agree with you. I think we are intelligent enough to look at this. And you and I are both middle of the road type of people. Like I'm when it comes to politics, like I didn't go cry because Trump lost. I didn't go out and celebrate because Biden won. It's like, okay, cool. When it comes to this trial, and I'm watching it, it seems almost like a lack of understanding of what the core argument is here, and Karen's kind of going towards things that just, one, aren't relevant to the overall argument, or two, they don't make sense. Like and I think Judge Livingston is picking up on it. She's like, what are you asking? Are you asking a question? And if so, whereas Soltaire and what's the other lawyer's name?
Brudical.
I didn't get to see him a lot in action, but when I did, Oh boy, he seemed
Yeah,
like
they're ruthless. I mean,
I
I
mean, he
almost felt
seemed
bad
like
for the Flow executives because I mean they were just getting hammered. I tweeted that on Friday that Machuca, I think his name is. I said that Brudical was up 9-0 going to the break in freestyle
yeah.
because I mean it was just brutal. Like he was just he at the end he could barely even put a sentence together. He was really struggling to handle the cross
What
examination.
was he the one who said we had a relationship? Was it
Yes,
was it
yeah,
it was Ray Makuta
Machuca, I think it
Machuca.
is.
Well, I've never met said Machuca. I've never had a conversation with said Machuca. And said, in fact, I even went through my emails. I did a search in my emails to see if, hey, I've ever been contacted by him because, I mean, we've used Flow Arena for the Surge. We used Flow Arena for True Power just a month ago. And I did there was there was some type of who's number one dual tournament, and I remember somebody reached out to me from Flow and said, "Hey, can you can you try to promote this?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, okay, whatever." Again, we're here for wrestling. We're here to support wrestling, and that's what we do. But the relationship, I mean, the last relationship I had with them was them calling me and giving a cease and desist when we're at the PIAA state tournament. So if it's a relationship, I'm going to go file for a PFA for domestic violence because I feel like I'm an abused partner in this. You are a $1 million company. You're coming after me.
Yeah, the big thing is the closest that I would say that we had to a relationship was again at PIAA team states and things like that. They'd ask us, "Hey, you guys are the experts on Pennsylvania wrestling. Would you sit down and do a little 5-minute intro with us?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure, that's fine. We can do that, no problem." And then, yeah, the next time we see them, they couldn't have the guys that were sitting 3 feet in front of you at the table turn around and say, "Hey guys, could you cut back on a little bit of the amount of action that you're using in these videos?"
Right.
Instead, they had to get the lawyers involved. So
yeah,
that's the extent of our relationship.
Yeah, it's not a good one. And it's a shame because and we were asked to do rankings for Pennsylvania rankings last year right before we decided to go launch on Rockfin, and it just wasn't something that we were comfortable doing. Eric and I both have been discussing how we can build PA Power Wrestling a little bit more, and we felt like Rockfin was a good platform for us, and it's just so funny that the way that this is being kind of presented is that this wide conspiracy theory, and it's just I don't understand what we have to do with it, to be honest. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, apparently,
well, it comes down to the Flow brothers. I mean, that's what it is. This is a blood feud between Mark, right, and Martin.
Yeah.
And so everybody else kind of gets caught in the middle. This is something that Mark is unhappy with Martin with, and so he's trying to get him at every opportunity that he can. And he knows that this is a way to hurt Martin and Willie is to come after them on this, and try to make them spend a lot of money on attorney's fees.
Yeah, and you know what was interesting, and I didn't get to see a whole lot of this, but was the Nomad thing, right? So they're salty, one, because it's Willie, right? And I think if anything, this shows how important Willie was to Flow Wrestling, in my opinion. I think this just shows you're willing to do all of this in response to Willie leaving and going somewhere else to another area, another competition, as they would say, competitor. But Nomad goes to Patreon and they're like, yeah, that's cool. If I'm Nomad, I'm what why don't you am I not as important here as Willie? Because Willie, I mean, heck, they're saying we invested all this time and money and we made you who you are. And I did hear Soltaire say today, something about his brain. He was like,
they're saying that his brain is really the trade secret.
Right.
Not anything that he took with him.
I mean, it's just, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, and maybe this is my bias, but I do feel like Judge Livingston is kind of just based on her nonverbals, her verbals, and some things that And she's the fact finder, right? And she has made that very clear that she's listening to the testimony, she's listening to these accounts, she's looking at the evidence, and she's, reading all these things that, text messages, emails, all these correspondence between different individuals on both sides, and at the end of the day, look at what the argument is. Was there a violation of the NDA or the PIA, and you look at this and you say, okay, it's been a year, so a year's up. They're not going to probably extend it. I don't think they're going to come back. I don't think she's going to come back and say, it's almost like what we do in law enforcement is like you get time served. Like you've been in jail for a year waiting for your trial. We're going to give you time served, and then you're going to be on probation for 2 years. You may have to do some community service, but you've been in jail waiting for this to go through the legal proceedings. We're going to call that time served. It's almost like Willie's had time served because he's kind of been in prison for the last year because he hasn't been able to do anything.
Well, and his agreement is actually up now. The year is up. So right. I'm not sure. The one thing that I did miss was the very beginning of the trial. I don't know what they're actually suing for. Like if Flo is suing for damages, if they want money out of this, what the end game is. Because Willie's, they did have a temporary injunction, and that's why I couldn't do the video.
Yeah.
That's why he was limited in what he could do. And that actually ended already. It's been a year. So that agreement that he had with Flo is up. So I'm not sure what they're seeking. I'm assuming it's monetary damages, but I don't know how much or what exactly they're going for there. But back for 1 second to Judge Livingston. I love her. She's I've never been a fan of these judge shows. I've never really watched Judge Judy or Judge Mathis or any of these, but I'd watch Judge Livingston. She doesn't take anything from me. She's just cuts through the crap and is like, okay, ask the question that you need to ask. Don't be stupid about it. Just let's move on.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I would love to be in a courtroom with her because she's a no nonsense kind of person. I mean, she was pretty upset that she even had this on her docket. I think back in the pretrial hearings that she was like, well, kind of like, apparently I'm going to be stuck with it, so screw me, right? I guess this is what I have to deal with. Like somebody must be mad at me in the clerk's office who's giving me the dockets here. So it's kind of funny to see and hear, but I really do think there's not a lot of, and in civil cases, the preponderance of evidence and the things that are, and I'm not going to give you a civil law class or a criminal law class, but there's differences in the level in which they have to reach to find a defendant guilty or not guilty, or in favor or not in favor of the plaintiff. So I really do think that Rockfin and Willie are probably going to come out on top, but that Ray Machuca, he took a hurt. It says that he likes, I read somewhere that says like he likes to do like intense workouts, like CrossFit workouts and stuff, and for a guy who would say that he's like a CrossFitter, it was like, you physically saw it, like he was just like head down, like I don't know, like my brain's, and I'm like, and I do feel bad for him, in a certain sense, but it's absurd. It really is. And but here's the thing. And I think you and I may have talked about this. I don't know. I've been talking with a lot of people about this, but the people who win, the winners in all of this are the fans, are wrestling, because look at the competition and look at all these events that are happening from all these different platforms. You got the Hawkeye Wrestling Club event that just happened in Iowa. You have the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club that's happening and continuing to happen. You have Flo doing the 8-man bracket. They're doing Valencia versus Burroughs. The wrestling fans are winning. And without going into politics and how I feel, but the free market economy, and you look at, competition really, when you have competitors in competition, the product gets better and better. And, if Flo was the monopoly, if Flo was the ones that were the only ones doing things, unlike PA Power, IA Wrestle, or Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, it kind of, you kind of get stuck. But now we have competitors, and it's like, I got to do that. I want to do that. The wrestling fans are winning here, in my opinion, big time.
Well, And I'd like to give Flo some credit. I mean, wrestling from the time that, when I was in college in the late 90s until, 2005, 2010, 2015, Flo completely elevated the sport. And I give look at the TV coverage we get now. Look at the just media coverage we get in general. And I give a lot of credit to Flo for that. I mean, they really did elevate the sport. They did a lot of great things for our sport. And I don't have a problem with them charging a subscription. Everybody's got to find a way to make money. And so that's not an issue here at all. But I do think you're right that there was a monopoly there where, there have been some suitors of late. Track wrestling obviously has tried to fill that void and become a competitor there. Yeah, and kind of the way the world has gone with the internet is there's so many niche markets now that wrestling itself has always been a niche market. But then there are there's even smaller ones in that. And like you said, the IA Wrestle, like PA Power Wrestling, the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club is finding that out, that there are enough people that will support just that one club, that they can have a great channel on Rockfin, and people will gravitate towards that because you can break it down now into specifically not just, okay, I want wrestling content, but I want Pennsylvania wrestling content, and I want Nittany Lion wrestling content. And I mean, it's really broken down now where there's a big piece of the pie, and then there are all these little ones also that you can really see exactly what you want to see if there's somebody out there doing it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Eric. And I really do feel like this is just the beginning, right? This is the as Willie would say, the genesis of it. Like this is something that I think in 5 years' time you're going to see more and more of these events and these types of things growing. And wrestling wins. The sport of wrestling wins in all of this. And I like you said, I give a ton of credit to Flo. Flo has been such an inspiration for so many different people, even like ourselves, that are just trying to bring attention to things like Pennsylvania wrestling or just wrestling in general. Sanctioned PA movement in Pennsylvania. Like you as Flo, like you can't cover the local Lions Club down in some community, right? I mean, you have to focus on the big things: Oklahoma State, Penn State, Pennsylvania, Iowa, New Jersey. And you have to focus in on the things that are people more the more masses are involved in or interested in. But you look at something like we do. It's a lot different when we go to West Allegheny or you go out to North Star, and it's like you're never gonna. I mean, unless you have some superstar kid there, you're never really gonna do any coverage on that. So like, I don't know. It just seems like the fans and the communities of wrestling win, and I don't think Flo is anti-wrestling. In fact, they're anything but. The upper echelon, on the other hand, is they're pro wrestling. They're for wrestling, but until it doesn't benefit them anymore, right? And I think that's been pretty clear through this trial, is that they are all about wrestling. And I don't think it's the boots on the ground. I don't think it's even from Christian Piles down. I don't think all those guys individually love wrestling, and they would do anything to help propel wrestling. There's no disputing that. But when you look at it's a business, and you have, where's your money coming from? You have investors, you have people that they don't really care about wrestling. They care about their bottom line. They care about the dollar bills. That's why this trial is taking place. Judge Livingston is shocked that this is happening, because she, remember in the early days of the trial, she would say, we're talking about kids wrestling, and we're here in court talking about that. But we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for money. If there wasn't, if dollar bills weren't the main factor here. And it's unfortunate, because those that top down flow, it's really not in the best interest of the sport of wrestling, period. Individually, yes, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, and like you said, money, I don't have. I mean, heck, we make money off of PA Power Wrestling, not a whole lot, or else I would be out of my basement, and you would be out of
have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you would have Wi-Fi, and we could afford some cooler things. But
well, and one other thing about Flo is, I think that not only is it top down, that the guys that we see making videos, writing content, all that stuff, not only are they not the ones getting rich off of this, but I think they're really being taken advantage of, because I think that the upper echelon at Flow knows, hey, these guys love wrestling so much that we can pay them a pittance to work at this, but they love it so much that they're going to do it because this is their dream job. And so we don't need to give them much money. We don't need to give them great benefits. We don't need to put them up in a fancy hotel. You know, we're going to put them in a dive hotel, you know, at the NCAA tournament where they're fearful for their lives whenever they're checking in and out. But, you know, hey, what's it matter? They love it. They're going to eat it up, and they're going to say, okay, yeah, you send me to NCAAs and Worlds and I'll do whatever you want.
If this just reminds me of France when we went out to the World Championships in France and we stayed in an Airbnb that was legit. I still have nightmares about, and I know like that was scary, man. Like we're in Macon, France, and you know, talk about scary, that Airbnb, man. And it was, but you're right. Like we were suckers.
That's the funny part.
What's that, Eric?
I said, she gave you the bad rating. That's the funny part.
She did. Yeah. She called me a pathetic. She called me a pathetic traveler. Because I kept on saying
which
bonjour.
Isn't necessarily wrong.
It's not wrong. I spoke no English. You know, the French. They don't like people that don't speak French, and I kept on saying bonjour, because I thought it was hello and goodbye, and it wasn't. I kept on saying hello as she's walking out the door.
She kept trying to leave. Yeah, and you say bonjour.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
Turn around.
For sure. Thanks, Spencer. But it was, you know, and you're right. We would do it because we love it. We love wrestling. We are willing to sacrifice certain things and certain needs for our dream jobs. Like, I mean, how many times have you and I talked about, it's like my dream job would be to do PA Power Wrestling full time. That would not be a job to me. That would be a life. But unfortunately that's not how the bills get paid, right? At least for us. And for Flow Wrestling, they have bills, they have to pay them. But I still just, I don't know. If anything, this trial has really exposed, you know, that corporate, that upper level, and that kind of, you know, greed. And I don't know. It is what it is. But I would say at this time in the trial, and I believe Christian Piles is on the witness list. He's going to be coming up here, I think, soon. So that should be very interesting. I know our friends at Stalemates are very much looking forward to that. They can spill some tea on that one. In fact, I can't wait to watch the Stalemates. I was promised, Wrestling Twitter was promised that we were going to have a recap video tonight. So you better be doing the video instead of watching this right now. You better be working on that video because we are all looking forward to watching that. Right, Eric?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
So, as much as I'd love to talk more about the Willie and Flow trials, we did have some wrestling happen over the weekend. We had some really good matches happen over the weekend. Some down in Ocean City, Maryland at the NHSCA, which they were brought up in the Willie trials today a bunch. We had them at their fall duels, and we also had the Elite 8 duels down in Georgia, which looked like a high-end affair there. You know, Cliff Fretwell and what his team did down there looked really fun. But let's talk about Keith Gavin. Speaking of Flow, you have the pit singlet hanging up. You have your pit stool. I like that. That's pretty cool. You know, it's hard on the eyes, but I'm accepting of it. Your boy Keith Gavin.
Really? You got my face and that in the background, and that's the part that's hard.
Yeah, you're right. Your head's kind of the eyesore. Keith Gavin, your main man, state I almost said Penn State, Pittsburgh wrestler, national champion. Keith Gavin came out of retirement to wrestle in Flow's 8-man bracket at 195 pounds. The winner got, what was it, $40,000?
$20,000 for the winner, and then broken down after
$20,000. I know he won $2,500 because he finished in 4th. So, but at least everyone got at least $1,000. So, Keith Gavin's $2,500 richer. He went 1-2. Did you watched it, Eric?
Yeah.
What did you think?
I was able to watch it on my phone. You know, only this big, but hey, better than nothing.
You got to watch it. First match, Penn State's Shakur Rashid, right? He wrestled him in the first match. Didn't look that great.
No, he went down 4-0. I thought he was in trouble there because you wouldn't expect the 35-year-old guy to be able to come back from a deficit. You'd think you want that early lead there and not have to worry about a gas tank. But
he had a gut wrench, right? He had a gut wrench to win it, right? Yeah.
And I mean, he's got an unconventional style. He was never really a your conventional style. So I guess it's not completely shocking that that he gave up some points there, but once he got on top and had that gut, that was the great equalizer for him.
Yeah, that was interesting to see him back in action, not only for the for just to see how he was at 35, but also just to see, how he was against guys that were just done competing, right? So, and you look at the box score here of what he was able to do. He beat Shakur Rashid 9-7, and then in the semifinals, boy, did you watch the Gabe Dean opening match? Because I missed that one.
Against Lujan, yeah.
Against Lujan,
Dean
yeah.
was up 8-0 and tried to got his hips low, got stepped over and pinned.
Jeez. So then Lujan beats Keith Gavin 9-2.
He stepped over too. He got some points off Gavin trying to turn him.
Okay, and then in the third, so semifinals, losers dropped down for the third and fourth because Miles Martin beat Nate Jackson. Nate Jackson then beats Keith Gavin for third place. He beats him 6-2. Nate Jackson's tough, man. I like watching him.
Yeah.
In fact,
I didn't realize that he was that big. I thought of Nate Jackson as a smaller guy, but and I kind of discounted him in this competition because I didn't realize that he was at that physically at that level with them. But he looked fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eric, and I thought he wrestled really well. Miles Martin did end up winning the prize, the grand prize, but Nate Jackson's tough. He's a guy I think people tend to overlook sometimes. Maybe not necessarily recently because he's done well at the U.S. Open. He's done well domestically at least, but yeah, I was excited to see Keith Gavin back on the mat. I don't think we're going to see him probably back. I think that was kind of a one-off thing. Would you agree with that, Eric?
Yeah, whenever I talked to him the day that it was announced, if you recall, I had him at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Club golf outing, saw him and did a little interview with him there. And he said it was just a thing where they, Flo contacted him, asked him if he'd be interested in. And he said, yeah, why not? Let's give it a try. But yeah, I don't think this was really the start of a big ride down the comeback trail road for Keith. I think this was just an opportunity to get out, have some fun, maybe showcase the pit program a little bit, get people talking about it. And I think he did a good job of that.
Yeah, and I think it gave some notoriety to the Pittsburgh Wrestling Club, and Luke Pletcher's there, and I think they're trying to build something special there. So I would agree with you there. Speaking of Nate Jackson, did you see the newest thing is that Beau Nicholl versus Nate Jackson November 24th live on Rockfin? Ooh, that's
what do you think there?
Oh man. What do I think about Beau and Jackson? I think Beau's the favorite just because, but I also don't think that Nate Jackson can be overlooked. I think it's gonna be a good match, but I just can't wait to see what else is on that card. Right? You got Beau Nicholl versus Nate Jackson November 24th live on Rockfin.
I saw Zane and Reese Humphrey, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, I totally forgot about that. Yeah. I don't have a graphic for that to put up, but yeah, Zane versus Reese Humphrey. That's right, because somebody said, Flo got Flo got Keith out of retirement. Rockfin got Nittany Lion Wrestling Club or Nittany Lions, the Nittany Lions, right? I don't know if you the Nittany Lions got Reese Humphreys out of retirement. Is Hawkeye Wrestling Club going to get who did they say they were going to try to get out of retirement? Henry Cejudo to wrestle Spencer Lee.
Yeah, to Spencer. You'd be all up for that. You'd be walking to Iowa for that match.
Oh yeah. I would hitchhike, walk. Yeah, I would ask Dyson.
Mask on the whole way.
Yeah, for sure. Just to see that match, absolutely I would. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. That's coming up on November 24th. Man, I wish we could do something cool like that. True Power is one and done for us. We're pretty much tapped out on doing some events right now recently, but there were some other events that happened. Like I mentioned, the Elite 8 duels down in Georgia and Pennsylvania, and I didn't realize that Pennsylvania was going to have as many people down there as they did. Tyler Kasak from Becca, a guy we saw during the True Power event, wrestled Mac Church. He went 4-2. He lost to Cooper Flynn 5-0, and we know Cooper Flynn's a really tough guy. He beat Mason Gibson in the Super 32 finals, but he competed at 120 pounds, going 4-2. Colby Franklin of Wyman Seminary, formerly a state runner-up at St. Joseph Catholic Academy. He went 7-0 at 195 pounds. He had some good wins. Jake Dara, he beat him twice, 3-2 and 6-2. So Colby Franklin looked really good at 195 pounds. Are you surprised, Eric, to see him at 195 as opposed to 220?
I am a little bit. Yeah. I would have thought that he's been that size for a while now. I thought he'd be a little bigger there.
Yeah, I kind of am too, but I mean, he looks good at that weight. I really do think he looks good at that weight. It's a good thing he's not wrestling at PIAA because he would have to figure out where he's going because there's not really a 195 weight class anymore. Enzo Merlocki from Kiski, he went 5-2. He lost twice to Gabe Arnold from Wyman Seminary, who's super tough, ranked top 5 in the nation, I'm pretty sure. Pearson Manville from State College, who's now at State College. He's a freshman. He went 4-2, lost to Nick Bazakis. Go figure. Nick Bazakis pinned him. So that was Pearson Manville. Nathan Desmond, also a True Power competitor from Bethlehem Catholic. He went 5-2 at 100 pounds. Was impressed with him. He beat Ray Harris from Team Kong twice. He was in the 2 matches that he lost as well. And also his teammate, Colin Rath, they're both 8th graders. Him and Nathan Desmond are both 8th graders. Colin Rath was a Super 32 medalist this year. He went 4-3, but he lost twice to Mark Anthony McGowan. So that's okay. I mean, he won everything. He won Ironman. He won a world championship in freestyle. So he's pretty tough. It was nice to see some Pennsylvania flavor down in the Elite 8 Duels. Did you see any of that, like the setup and stuff?
I did not get a chance.
Go look on the Elite 8 Duels website. And I know the Open Mat did some stuff on it with Earl, and it looked really sick. It looked like a high-class event.
I know it was billed as Dirty South versus the World or whatever it was. How did we not get why wasn't there a PA team in it? I would have loved to have seen somebody take a PA team down there.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly because it's the same weekend as maybe NHCA SCA. Sorry, I heard it so many times today. I'm fumbling with my words. I think probably that had something to do with it. That's a little bit closer drive. Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell you why. But I do think that it was we'll
put a PA power team together next year.
For sure. Yeah, I think Team Kong was there. Team Kong has been, they're kind of like them and Team Shut they've been doing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of the fall duels for the NHSCA, the Waynesburg Raiders had a team down there, and they did pretty well. They had basically a full lineup, and you can see here that Wyatt Henson, Rocco Welsh, and Luca Augustine all went 6-0. The team overall went 5-1. Some really good performances by the Waynesburg Raiders, and it's funny because they had Charlie Bunting on their team, who wrestles for Nazareth, and Nazareth and Waynesburg probably are 2 of the top teams this year in the state. So it was just kind of interesting to see a stud like Charlie on the Waynesburg team. But we got to see some of our new faces here. We got to see some guys like Rocco Welsh. Mac Church was not there, but Cole Hammett was. Luca Augustine had a great tournament. Luca went undefeated at 170 pounds. He beat Rocco Contino, who from Team Carnage 3-1. He was ranked top 10 in the nation for sure. I forget exactly where he was, but that was a really big win for him. He beat Harrison Trahan from the McDonough School, who's a Pennsylvania resident, beat him 3-0. So Waynesburg, when we talk about what is to come this year, Waynesburg is just going to be super tough. They're so deep. They're so deep.
Yeah, because we've known about Church and Hama and Augustine, but yeah, you're starting to see some more of that depth come up. I think that is going to make them a really good dual meet, and if we actually have tournament team.
Yeah, I hope that we do, but we'll see. We shall
What
see.
what I'm hearing is not optimistic about it.
Really? What? Well, can you give us any insight, Eric? Or
I've talked to some people who are still holding out hope for some of the bigger tournaments. It's not Powerade. You've got that angle covered, but some of the other big events, they're still hoping to do it, but it just doesn't sound like it's going to be really realistic to have some of those events with 40 teams in them and be able to pull that off.
yeah, I mean, so yeah, I would agree with you, and I mean, there's really not that many big tournaments left. You know, Iron Man's out, Escape the Rock's out, Beast is out. Now locally, what about the Penn Cambria tournament? What about King of the Mountain? Trojan Wars is out. So, all those tournaments aside, is the PIAA going to have a season? Is the PI? And I know there's a lot of people are saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to push forward," but like really, if we are, what's it going to look like?
Well, that's the thing is my feeling is, and this is across all sports, as you know, Jeff, I have hockey players that live with me. They play junior hockey and they canceled their season last year. They're running into issues right now where they have a couple weeks off and, teams aren't able to travel and things like that. And my wife said, "Oh man, are they going to cancel the season again?" And my feeling is no, they've done that once. They last year they canceled it. I think now we've learned that things might not go exactly as we want them. Even, Big Ten football's canceling some games, but you know what? Some is better than none in this instance. So if it's a situation where we say, okay, let's start the season, let's see how things go. Maybe we can't do the giant tournaments. Maybe we can only have a couple teams. Maybe each district has to be broken down into a couple sections and you bring 4 or 8 guys together in a weight class and wrestle them off and then take them together for another week somewhere else and spread it out where you're not having 16 or 32 man brackets, but you have a smaller one. To me, that's a lot better than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's better than nothing. I mean, I would much rather have that than not have any season at all. But I still, I'm still curious to see what it's going to look like, postseason wise. Did you see New York State? They recently came out with something. I don't know if it was today or not, but they said high risk versus low risk winter sports. So like volleyball or swimming, some other ones, they were like, yeah, you're a go, but high risk sports and wrestling was obviously on there. They still have to do some more figuring out with that to figure, to see if it's even feasible to have a season. So
I didn't see that. The craziest one to me is Michigan where they're requiring you to wear a mask while wrestling.
Yeah, the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Right? That's ridiculous. And
I mean, anybody who ever had to wear, the mask for a nose injury or anything like that knows how hard it is to breathe in that. Can you imagine when the goal is actually to keep the air in there? I mean, I don't know how you deal with that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. Yeah, those masks, my nose was too big to fit in those masks. So as you can see, my crooked, broken nose, that was, thank you, of a very hard crossface in practice from one of my teammates who just like to bully me and pick on me and ended up breaking my nose. Yeah, I don't see that ever coming to fruition or happening in Michigan. That's just absurd. But I don't know. I don't like to hear what you're saying about some negative things. Before we kind of recap some of the things, I want to go to a quick commercial break to talk about the tactical mind. You got to get your mind right, especially going into this uncertain future of the season. So we'll be right back in 30 seconds.
This is the Tactical Mind, and I work with athletes in the field of sports psychology as a cognitive performance coach. Within 5 minutes of talking to a parent, they make the connection right away that this would be great for my kid to have when they're in college, when they're just going through the ups and downs of high school. Who wouldn't benefit from having more self-awareness? Who wouldn't benefit from having the ability to self-regulate our emotions and our counterproductive thoughts? Who wouldn't benefit from having more optimism, not just on the field, but in life?
And remember, you can go to the tacticalmindllc.com, and if you use the promo code POWER, you will get 50% off your initial consultation. So again, make sure you check out the Tactical Mind here. We got the koozie here. I know, Eric, you're mad that I have the 9.2 glasses here, but hey, it was the things happen. All right, things happen. They're now in my basement. Maybe I can use them as collateral to sell to somebody and make some money for PA Power Wrestling so we can catch up the flow. All right, so let's get back to the NHCSCA. I'm not going to get that right today. Lost Boys, so that's kind of like Notre Dame Green Pond. Ryan Crookham was not there, but Brandon Kletos was. He went undefeated, had some good wins. He beat up some guys. But he beat Braxton Lewis from Team Thunder 3-1. JT Hogan, he wrestled for Malvern Silver. He's out of Daniel Boone. He went undefeated as well. Jack Waymeyer, guy we saw at the True Power, he went undefeated at 182 pounds. He beat Joseph Jens. He beat him 1-0. Also, he beat Colt Barley from Team Nauman Black 1-0. Barley's a guy who wrestled at Penn Manor. Nick Feldman went undefeated. He did have a tight match there, and that was at 220 pounds. Eric, I don't know if you saw this. Nick Feldman versus Mike Mistia. I don't know how to exactly say that.
Masita, maybe?
Masita. Yeah, that sounds right. Superior Wrestling Academy beat him 2-1, so tight match there. I'm sure he's ranked. I was too busy with Willie Trials to check.
I'm not used to seeing anybody hang with Nick, so that's super impressive if you can wrestle Nick Feldman to a 2-1 match.
Yeah, especially after seeing what he did at Who's Number One.
Who's Number One,
I mean,
yeah.
Beating the number one guy in the nation by major decision. So there was a ton of and to be honest, I apologize because there were so many Pennsylvania wrestlers. And Eric, you saw the sheet that I sent. I mean, it had hundreds of wrestlers that competed in it, and it was just so many to go through and sort through. Brandon Wetzel from Montoursville, state champion. He wrestled in it. Some pretty tough freshmen wrestled in it. I'm excited to see, and Dyson and I are working pretty hard on the top incoming freshman report right now. But there's a lot of guys I'm super excited to see coming into the season to see how they hold up. Should we have one? Rune Lawrence, Thane Lawrence's younger brother. I'm really looking forward to seeing him. There's a ton. I'm not going to give them all away, obviously Mason Gibson, but, there's a lot from all across the state. Team Nauman I saw had several of the top incoming freshmen that we believe are going to be on there and competing. Camden Williams from Mannheim Centrals, I think they're going to be super tough. I'm excited to see where all these top freshmen end up if we should have a season. That's the toughest thing. And we talked about that before is, now's the year to hold somebody back because you don't know if you're going to have a season. So it's hard to determine all right, who's going to be an actual, who's actually wrestling, who's not.
But they would have had, not that you have insight into that, but they would have had to have determined that already, obviously.
Yeah.
As to, hey, this kid's going to be in 8th grade or he's, in 9th grade. So, yeah, they would have to determine that. Do you have any kind of prognostication yet as to when the top incoming freshman will be ready?
I don't know. Is Dyson going to get to work or what? I mean,
he's this has been a Jeff Upson production for years.
I'm tired.
Taking on a partner now.
I'm too old for this. Hey,
you don't even have a crying baby yet.
Oh no, that's soon. That's soon, man. I got a new job, a new position.
Yes, congratulations, by the way. I think this is the first time I've done the podcast since that became official. But
that's because my schedule has changed. So I mean, and I'm not gonna be able to do this a whole lot. Now that I'm on a different shift and in a different area of operation. So yeah, thank you. I got two big life moves going on in the same year. Well, I guess they're split over 2 years. 20 and 21, but getting promoted and then also having my first child is those are two big moves, Eric.
PA, very big moves.
Flo may not have to be worried about competition much longer because we may not be able to do much. I don't know. But yeah, so I think Dyson. I have basically the list set out, the ranking of the list. I'm going through and verifying that we actually have the right guys at the right school / right grade. You know how difficult that is. And Dyson's going through and adding credentials, so I'm going to have to help him with that because he is a high school student, and I sometimes forget that. I forget. Sometimes I text him, I'm like, "Are you in school?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm on lunch." Like, I'm like, it'd be so much cooler if you didn't have to go to school and you could just work for PA Power full time. But yeah, so it probably in the next couple weeks. I typically like to release the top incoming freshmen around Thanksgiving, so we're on track for that. To get released, and then of course we're gonna have to start doing some preseason rankings, Eric. So you're gonna have to start.
I know.
We good old Eric.
I've been thinking I got to get my Tom Elling book here, which always helps me, just kind of point me in the right direction when I get that Tom Elling handbook.
Yeah.
That's kind of the unofficial start of the high school season for me. So I got to get that out, get it in the mail, get it to me, and then hopefully by then I'll have some internet and I can actually do some things at home.
I could just see it now, like you not having internet up until like 2021, and I don't want to put that. I don't want to put that bad juju.
No, don't do that to me.
Yeah. So hopefully that
try having a 20-year-old and a 19-year-old living with you and having no Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Does not go over well.
No, not at all. Let's see what else we want to talk about. A couple commitments here. Drew Cleary. I don't know if you saw this. Drew Cleary from Nazareth. He has decommitted from Princeton University. He said, I'm excited for what is ahead as I reconsider my future plans. Of course, we talked about the pipeline from Nazareth to Princeton with Stefanix and also Sean Pearson there. I wonder what's going on. And actually, someone in our group text said, I hope Princeton's not, I hope Princeton Wrestling's not on the chopping block. You don't think that's the case, do you? I mean, they can't.
I hope not. I mean, I don't know. In 2020, though, I wouldn't say that any program is not on a chopping block, wrestling or otherwise, because budgets are just taking. I would think that Ivy League schools would be safer in that regard, but you would think a school like Princeton or like Stanford would be safe too.
Yeah.
I mean, they've obviously got a huge endowment, but that doesn't necessarily help your sports programs.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, who would have thought Stanford but Princeton.
I mean, Princeton did it before.
Yeah. No, you're right. Don't. I hope that's not it, and I don't think that is. I think we would have heard. I think we would have heard.
Right. I mean, yeah, if he would have had that inkling, it would have been out by now. I mean, I thought if that was the case, you would have heard it later that day that the program was going away. Right. But you haven't heard anything, so I think that's a very positive sign. And I know someone else in the chat group responded and said, no, I think Princeton is on really solid ground financially, that they're, if not making money, getting close to breaking even at least, which for wrestling is a great thing.
I would agree with you there. Another commitment, Ethan Finch from Sheffield. He burst onto the scene at Super 32, placing 4th. He was a state medalist last year, and he is committed to none other than the Pitt Panthers, Eric. And I think this is a good one here. I really do. I think he's a bad karma guy up there with Mark Steen and Gary Steen obviously going to Pitt, Cole Matthews at Pitt. I think he's a steal. I think he's got a ton of upside. I hate using that term, but he really does have a lot. I don't think we've seen what's the best of him yet. I mean, his freshman year, he was barely 500. That was just 2 years ago. So, and he's already taken so many leaps in just a couple years. And look what he was able to do at Super 32. You don't place at Super 32 and not have Division I, coaches and programs looking at you. So Ethan Finch, man, I totally impressed with him and good pickup for Pitt for sure. I know a lot of people were interested in him.
Yeah, and that's good because that's one of those things. Sometimes you can get that guy who really makes the breakthrough right before they get into the season, and you can get that commitment before a lot of other coaches jump on board. So I think that's a great pickup, as you said, for Pitt.
Yeah, for sure it is, and I think they're gonna obviously be in good, store for the next couple of years with Nino Bonacorsi, but because he could potentially Olympic redshirt, and he could, I think he's gonna be around for a little bit longer, but him being in that room is gonna be very, I think he's gonna grow a lot. Another thing that I saw happen was Jake Gunning from Liberty. He was named the assistant coach at NJCU, and they're in the first year of a program, a wrestling program, I believe. So yeah, Jake Gunning, former Liberty wrestler, wrestled at Buffalo. He's going to be the assistant coach at NJCU out in Jersey. So nice to see some Pennsylvania wrestlers switching into coaching. I think we've seen a lot of that. And do you have another commitment that you want to talk about from Lock Haven?
I don't know. I don't know that it's official yet.
Gotcha.
I was told it by a coach who I believe that it's true, but I don't want to steal a kid's thunder if he hasn't announced it yet. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was on
to be able to put it on. I can't look at Twitter right now, so I don't know. But I don't know if he's actually announced it yet. But yeah, I did get a text today saying that someone was committing to Lock Haven. But yeah, I don't want to steal it from a kid. Let him put it out there, and then we'll talk about it a little bit later.
Yeah, and I didn't know if he had put anything out. I didn't know if he actually. I couldn't find him on social media, but yeah, but I know Kyle Shoup tagged us on a post on Twitter saying, we're going to have a big commitment coming. So,
did you see the one also? We had the decommit from Army going to George Mason the other day.
Yeah. You want to talk
Avery
about
Bassett? Avery Bassett. Big get there for George Mason, who, you love Frank Beasley just like I do. I mean, one of our first guests ever on the podcast, and doing a great job down there at George Mason. And I think that's a really good get for them to have Avery Bassett come in there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was a huge recruit for Army, and he obviously at the Super 32 last year he did very well. He beat Eric Gibson. Then Eric Gibson got revenge at the state tournament, but I think that's a huge get for George Mason. And he's a perfect type of guy for George Mason. I think he's a perfect fit for George Mason. So yeah, you actually told me that, because I was like, no, he's committed to Army. He verbal to Army, but you're right. That was that's a good get for Frank Beasley and his staff down there. And he's always pulling in some of the top recruits.
And I don't know, this is completely off script. We haven't talked about this at all. I don't even know if I told you, but did you see that Caden Cassidy has an MMA fight coming up the weekend of Thanksgiving?
Yeah, you had said that. So he is
okay. I didn't know if I told you
gray-shirting,
that or
right?
not, but
he's
he's gray shirting. He's not enrolled at George Mason. He's taking classes online, but yeah, he's already getting into some MMA and doing a fight, amateur fight. So he can go do that. And he said that the George Mason coaches think it's awesome. They have no problem with it. So kind of interesting. I can't think of anybody else that I know of who's done MMA before they go to college. So it's kind of an interesting take. And also the other one locally for me was Cody Law had his first Bellator fight, his first pro fight. We don't get into MMA too much. I'm not a big MMA guy. I don't think you are too much either. But obviously, it's a great stepping stone. Wrestling provides a great background for those guys that can go into it. So I'd love to see a guy like Cody Law doing well. He had a submission in 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes in his pro debut. So great job by Cody. Forest Hills state champ there, and Division II national champ at UPJ by way of Penn State.
And it seems like he is, I mean, just reading some of the features that I saw on him, it seemed like he is kind of a rising, because like you said, I don't follow MMA too closely, but other than Pennsylvania wrestlers, but it seems like he's a rising star. I guess he's got a lot of, people excited, and he's down in Florida training with some UFC guys. So I'm sure he's feeling pretty good. I think I saw something. He's like, yeah, I want to fight tomorrow too, because I split up between Friday and Saturday. He wanted a fight Saturday too. So, yeah, good for him. Cody Law from Forest Hills, tough SOB. I'll never forget seeing him at States, and he was wearing a shirt that said, "I fought the law and I lost," and the law won or something like that. I was like,
yeah,
that's so cool. That's so cool.
You need to get some of those shirts, Jeff.
For me, yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. Some, although I can't have any conflict of interest, I couldn't use my employer's logo or image on there because I don't want to end up in court. I already have enough.
Karen's gonna be coming after you for
the Pittsburgh police
infringement there.
Yeah. So, other things, the Hawkeye Wrestling Club had their event, and we had a lot of Pennsylvania wrestlers in it. I see we're at the hour mark, so I'll keep it quick. But Spencer Lee did what Spencer Lee does. Man, every time I mean, of course, bias right here all over, but I every time I see him, I feel like he brings out something different. And him against Zach Sanders, I mean, he just looked. Freestyle is his.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's so much of a better
Spencer
freestyle
Lee is
wrestler.
he's a phenomenal folk style wrestler, but I think that he's levels ahead of that in freestyle.
Same, and he likes freestyle better. I mean, he's admitted that multiple times that he enjoys freestyle better. Austin Asano, he may want to stick to folk style. He looked a little confused out there wrestling Bryce Meredith. That was just a tough draw for him, especially a guy who has senior level experience. Austin Asano did not fare well against him.
Yeah, honestly, that didn't surprise me too much. I haven't seen too much of DeSanto in freestyle, and that's a pretty tough ask to go against a guy like Bryce Meredith whenever you don't have that really strong freestyle background.
Also in the main card was Michael Kemmer, and he wrestled Tommy Gant, formerly of NC State, and he lost that match. Another guy who I was surprised, he freestyle, he's wrestled freestyle, but it didn't look like, it just didn't look like his match. I don't think he was able to really get to the things that he wanted to.
I mean, Gant's a tough customer too. That one, again, not a huge surprise for me. And like Dyson, who was obviously always the Iowa supporter, said, hey, they weren't afraid to go out and book guys that could beat their guys. It wasn't just, okay, we're going to go out and we're going to get Iowa guys some matches that they can definitely win. It was really tough competition that they were facing, and credit to them for going ahead and doing that and trying to get better and not worrying about a match that doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things.
And in the undercard, Max Murin had a great win over Mitch McKee. That was a heck of a match. And Caleb Young beat his teammate, or former teammate. So, not a whole lot of excitement there. But Max Murin, man, that he looked really good. I was very excited to see him wrestle.
Yeah, I didn't get to see the card as a whole, but I did watch a little bit of the highlights. Obviously, Murin being a local guy for me, I had to check those out and see his great finish to that match and coming out over Mitch McKee.
All right, Eric. Well, we are well past over our power hour. We will be back hopefully next week with another one to talk some more about the recap of the Willie Trials. We'll see what happens in the
Days of Flow Lives.
Days of Flow Lives. Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to write that down because that's a good one. Yeah, Eric. Hope you get internet soon so we can do this more often. Hope Dyson's doing his homework, and we will see you very shortly. All right. See you, Eric.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.